Hi, this is Mark Soden for Wonder Valley Experimental 14. I'm here with Kirk Comstock, and we're here to talk about how he makes films. So, Kurt, who are you, where are you, and what do you do?
Okay, I'm Kurt Comstock. I'm a male Homo sapiens. I live in Southern California in the North San Fernando Valley. Uh, when people say, "What do you do?" I guess, how do you make money? I've been a commercial artist for 30 years. Also, I'm an inventor. I recently, for the past couple of years, I've been making most of my income doing inventions with my brother and licensing them and getting a royalty. So that's kind of nice. Uh, but what I do is I'm a musician. I play banjo. I like to fish. Uh, I'm extremely interested and have fun with archaic technology and equipment. I just picked up a couple weeks ago an old 1940s oscilloscope or whatever with all the squiggly lines on it stuff. So that's going to show up in a film one of these days. But as far as what's interesting maybe to your audience is I am a filmmaker working with 16 millimeter film. And to go a little beyond that, I do not use commercial developers. I create all my own developers out of botanical sources here I brought a little show and tell out of washing soda and different types of botanical teas. So I know this is part of the show and tell, it should be, but I have a lovely several 16 millimeters, but this is what I load film in. And film has always been, I first when videos first came out, VHS tapes and everything is so wonderful, so inexpensive, and I always wanted to work with film, but it's prohibitive. And then Dagie Brundert, which is a filmmaker from Berlin, came out to the Echo Park Film Center and gave a presentation on making films in coffee, and then also making films. And she made a film in rosemary. And silly woman, she gave me her basic recipe, and it's just washing soda and different types of teas and different and then you experiment with them. So I've been experimenting now for about 8 years with all sorts of different formulas, and pretty much all of my formulas, I try to shoot film that's interesting first off, capture it inside the camera, and then turn it into a projectable film. So the actual film that's in the camera is what I project. So there's a whole process to do that. And then depending on what I've been shooting, I try to make a developer somewhere that has something to do with the area where I've been shooting. Like I've shot Malibu surf film, and I developed it in brown kelp, of all things. Really amazing effect that does. It's kind of goopy and makes bubbles, and really, really cool. In this film, I called it Road Trip, RODE, trip, TRIPP, like places I rode and trippy things I seen, or remembrances or something like that. But here's the actual film. Let me go. Should I just keep going, or you can guide me
I,
through the thing?
I have nothing to say
Okay,
that is
I
half
met
as interesting as this. Just don't stop.
Janet from Fnord.
Right.
Janet and Mark. I don't know Mark all that well. I met him, and I know that he has to do with film preservation or something like that. So we had a lovely conversation. But Janet, I've known for a while, and she said, "Hey, a year ago or so, maybe it was last year's Wonder Valley." She said, "Kurt, you make these films. I don't show them to anyone. I show them once at the Echo Park Film Center pre-COVID. So anything I've made since then, I haven't shown anyone. My family's not that interested in what I do, but it's really personal to me, and I just love the images that I can get. So when Janet said last year, she said the Wonder Valley experimental's coming up. Would you like to do a film? And I took some of my films and I came up with Stony Vale Colony, and she and Fnord just did this incredible soundtrack, and they just gave it to me and said, do whatever you want with it. So this year came around and they said, would you be interested? And I said, oh yeah, to have eyeballs seeing some of my work. And so she and Mark Hoschler, they sent me 13 minutes of sound. They gave it a name that they said the name doesn't mean anything. It was something about if it walks like a duck or something like that. But I listened to it and it was like, oh, this is really emotional, evocative, almost a little bit like scary, going to the drive-in movie, scary, but also listening to it and it's just very evocative of a feeling. So when I heard that, I said, let me find something nice. So what I found was this film, which was, let's see what it says in there somewhere, Road Trip. And it's been shown Road Trip. It's been shown once at Echo Park Film Center and it's never been shown to anyone else ever in the world. So I was looking through some of my old films. This one is 2018. I did a road trip up through Nevada. And I'd been through there before, and there was a lot of old decaying buildings and everything. And I said, next time I go up through there, I want to catch it on film because they're going to be gone. So I went up to a funeral. I went a road trip up by myself, and up above Winnemucca, I shot some film in Winnemucca, and then I thought I would head off to Schurz, Nevada. It's this small little town on the Walker River Indian Reservation,
Mm-hmm.
and I know there was a bunch of decaying buildings in there that were in the stages of falling down. So when I went through there, I'd been there 2 years before. Some of the buildings were actually down and gone, and like, wow, I'm hitting this spot. Right at a moment in time. And I mean, that's what I love about this, is the film that I project on a projector and you watch on the wall or watch on the screen is the actual film that I had in the camera. It was physically there. Sun hits the buildings, photons come through the lens, it hits the silver. And then I go through this whole process of developing, of making the developers and everything. And for me, it's like I am capturing a moment in time. It's, I don't know how great artists work or anything, but no one else, the images I come up with can never exist again. And no one else can do it the way that I do it. And I guess that's what art is. I do something completely, different than other people. I initially followed for some of the coffee filmmakers that make film out of coffee, so they're the ones that discovered, coffee has this stuff called phenol in it, which combined with washing soda will oxidize silver, the silver halide, whatever, and turn it into black, so the whole process of making that will do the same stuff that, Kodak's poison will do, only everything that I develop my films in, I can brush my teeth with.
Wow.
Except, for example, this road trip, one thing I noticed through all the different areas I was filming is off to the side is sagebrush, white sage. Now, I couldn't bring white sage from Nevada back to California. That's against the law. But as soon as I got in the border of California, there's white sage. It's everywhere in the West. I picked a bunch of white sage and I made a little test film, a test strip, and it was a really good developer. White sage is an awesome developer. So this has been developed in white sage because that was is ubiquitous. everywhere that I went. I was going, there it is again, there it was again. I hope that it's a great developer. I shot a bunch of oak trees, and I was hoping that oak was going to be a great developer. It's a crappy developer. It doesn't work. So I learned. So there's other elements in the film that I shot in the Angeles National Forest above me, and it's creepy trash cans and stuff like that, and trees and everything. And I believe I filmed that in a plant called stinking tarweed. And why did I do it in stinking tarweed? Because I saw it around. I was looking for different plants, and I picked it up. And it's like, oh, and it's goopy. It's sticky,
Just the name alone
and
makes it
smells bad.
attractive.
I didn't
Yeah.
know what it was, and when I went home, and I brought some of it home, and when I looked it up, and I found it's called stinking tarweed. So I don't think I wrote that anywhere, but the shots of trees and outside and everything was done in stinking tarweed. The old decaying buildings in Schurz, Nevada, and in Winnemucca, Nevada, those were done in white sage. It ends up being so it's unique. It's a good talking point.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it would be so easy for me to keep a jug of developer on the shelf, but I got into this one because it's inexpensive for me
Mm-hmm.
to do, but also I'm not working with chemicals. I'm not throwing chemicals down the drain, all that sort of stuff. I'm working with basically things you can brush your teeth with. I've made wild anise licorice
Mm-hmm.
off of Zuma Beach. I did a shot at Zuma Beach, and I went and I picked wild licorice. If you go up
Mm-hmm.
above Zuma Beach, it's wild licorice, and that was the best smelling developer ever. And it smelled for a couple of days. The film smelled like that. The worst smelling developer was not stinking tarweed. I was up walking around shooting up in the national forest, Angeles National Forest above my house, and there was a brown horse turd, road apple,
Road
and I
apple.
accidentally kicked it, and inside it opened up. It's all green inside, so it was brown on the outside, but it's all green inside. And it went green, chlorophyll, plant material. It's the chlorophyll is making it through the horse's system and coming out the back. I wonder if I could make a developer out of that. And I tell you what,
You're not going to want to brush your teeth with that.
there's the key. Horse crap is a really hot, really good developer, works really good, smells awful. My wife said, you do all that in the backyard as far away from the house as you can. And it was a stinker. And my and the film, it was stinky for a good week. And I think what I did with that is I went down to Travel Town at Griffith Park, Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and shot a bunch of the locomotives there. They have a bunch of locomotives there. And then while I was down there, I shot a bunch of equestrians, because there's an equestrian area around there and everything. So I developed both those in horse manure, and I believe I called it horses and horse crap, with an asterisk in the crap or something. Horses and horse crap, and the idea being the iron horse, and then
Right, right.
of the previous century and before, and then the modern equestrians. It was like, yeah, I don't know. You could read things into my films. I certainly do. I don't like to say this is what I was feeling when I did this. This is what this is what this is. The film for Wonder Valley Road Trip, yeah, has a lot of different meanings to me. Some of the stuff that I chose together, and the things that I put them together, and when the music was doing certain stuff, So I have a whole what do they call it, subtext, that I could tell your story about. But I hope,
Mm-hmm.
Mark, that you could watch the film and say, this is what it was about.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best art is I don't know what the word would be, but not it leaves it open to interpretation, and the music that Fnord, the sounds that Fnord provided was just, again, so evocative. Just me listening to it, just going, oh yeah, grooving, grooving. And then as I went through films, I said, yeah, that's there's a visual representation of the sounds that I'm hearing. And the end result is much better than anything that I would come up with myself. And obviously Fnord wanted some help with visuals and stuff, so it just ended up being a challenge for me at first. But then as soon as I got into it, no, this is easy peasy. I have so much film, nobody's ever seen it. Maybe they'll have a 6-hour film fest at my funeral. As like, you're the only people that ever seen it. But
So
I've had a wonderful time working with Fnord
you
and
don't
with the film.
have your films anywhere on the internet or other than the Wonder Valley? Uh,
Well, if you wanted to try hard, you could. I had on YouTube. I had a channel up. Um, I started to get into different areas, and I ended up taking everything down when I don't want to get political, but when things stopped being funny 2 years, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, things stopped being funny, and the direction that I was making my films was it's something I didn't want to show at this time. So I took most of my stuff down. I
mhm.
certainly do have some lovely stuff still up. And this would be YouTube, Spooker movie, or YouTube/Spooker movie. I think that's where it's at. I took everything down, but everything is going to go back up again. Because most of my films revolves around actually a non-linear narrative story about time travel and philosophies and existence and interpretations of different people's interpretations. But it's a film. So that's my spooker films, basically dancing around, spooky spiritual stuff, and lighthearted, but actually pretty meaningful underneath. I
Mhm.
pulled that all 2 years ago. I just want to rethink it and redo it. And so I'm continuing to shoot film and develop it. I shot what I believe this is probably a year ago. I haven't shown it to anyone. In fact, I've never. I'll make the statement first. Let's see. Um, Cannabis. I got an ounce of cannabis and I made a developer out of it. Really, really, really good developer. It's like kind of expensive. But no, I had got it from a homegrown plant.
Mhm.
So it wasn't part of the commercial deal. And I developed the first film that I know of developed in cannabis. Um, and it's funny that the cannabis I had was from a couple of years ago. I had it for a year thinking I'll make a film with it. And then I shot the film, and then the film remained in the camera for another 6 months or 9 months. And I just forgot about it. But, oh, and then I developed it in the developer. So it was like this 18-month process. And I believe that was about 18 months ago. And until Wonder Valley came up and Fnord said, can you can you make a film? I didn't know where it was. I had never that particular film. I had never projected it yet. I wrapped it up on a reel, but I was going through all these old, and I never found it, and I never watched it. So then what happened is there was a bunch of I found some reels that had trash on the front, really poorly developed. I went, wait a minute, Kurt, that's leader, isn't it? That's waste film. And I looked just past the leader, and bam, there's a bunch of wasted films, or there's a bunch of films that I hadn't seen. What's funny about that film is my cannabis film is I had never watched it, but I'd only looked at it through with a loop, a magnifier.
Mhm.
great images from beginning to end. Oh, great development. But for whatever reasons, I couldn't watch it. And sometimes if I can't even watch my own film just out of the nervousness, I don't know, like waiting for the piece of candy. I don't know what it is, but I don't really show my films to other people. But just, I don't know, maybe I'm a hoarder or something. I'm not saying I'm Van Gogh, but it's like, it's my film. I love it. So part of that story is I still have not watched this film.
Wow.
Still images, but I see the still images and I know what it's going to look like. And again, like saving the best piece of candy or something just for a time in my life. I know it's weird. Um, but I'm satisfied. It's like owning a car that you haven't driven. It's like, it's right there. I know. I Maybe that's kind of stupid. Um, okay,
it's
but it
whatever
just, yeah, it's
you need it to
whatever.
be.
Yeah. So the fun thing is I go back through my films and every single one, I remember shooting it. Oh, so why did I get into doing this? Because I always wanted to get into film, but it's very expensive. 100 feet of 16 millimeter is about $70, but once you have it developed, it's I think $75 you can get it developed. Then you have to have it telecined. It ends up being $300 or $400 for 5 minutes of film. Is going to cost you $300 or $400 to produce. So what I started doing is I started looking in Craigslist and on eBay and finding expired film. The fun, so I buy expired film all the time. Now what and Kodak has a little code. It's a series of triangles, pluses, and circles. And so you can, and it's next to the time code. So you can look at the film, and the boxes won't tell you what date it is, but the film itself has the date of manufacture. So Road Trip was manufactured in the North American Kodak Eastman plant in 1987. So once I developed, I didn't know that. So the film is still good that long. And I've bought film from filmmakers that said, oh, it's been in the freezer for so long. But I've bought film from Nevada that's been in a where were you keeping it? In the garage in Nevada for 30 years. But my films are so crappy, all this crap all over the place. It doesn't make a difference. I can use fresh film, or pretty much get a real good, and it's a different effect sometimes.
Well, it
I don't
sounds
know.
like the element of surprise is a big
Oh,
part of this.
when I first started making films, it would be misty, smoggy, misty, and then a face would come out of the mist and come back, and oh, that was magic. It was magic. Um, so I end up I buy film at 10 cents a foot. 10 cents a foot. So I get so $10, maybe $12. I can get a hundred yards, which is 2.5 minutes at full speed. But I undercrank everything, because I like to run my film slow so you can see all the stuff that's going on the grit and everything that's going on in the film. So for me, 10 or $12 worth of film, and then then how I tell us I digitize it in every different ways. But for me, it's the projectable image is what I want. And 10 or $12 worth of film. Let's say maybe I'll even pay $18 for a load of film. That's my cost. And then a box of this will do a year's worth of developing. I throw in to speed things up. Brugi Dunhart from Germany said, throw in
Vitamin
vitamin C
C.
powder. I don't need it, but it changes the formulas, makes them a little bit faster. Uh, um, and that's it. So for me, it's almost as cheap as shooting with my cell phone. Really, the amount of time, and it takes, it's a 2-day process by the time I load film to when I'm projecting it. It's going to take
Hmm.
a long time.
Well,
Oh,
if you factor in the adventure of all these road trips and the places that you've gone to find this imagery, this is this is an amazing. It's not a hobby, it's like a lifestyle. The way that you see things, the way that you're collecting those images of things that will not be there in 20, 50
Oh,
years.
absolutely. I know that the same applies to me. So I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, and I said, "Are you gonna? I want to start doing something." I tried, oil painting, and I play music and all that sort of stuff. But when I saw Dagie Brundert come, and she said, "This is," she showed how to do it with plants, and and I came up with, I found some expired film, and it worked. And again, at first, but each time I do it, I mean, I don't write down. I don't. When you're working with film, you're supposed to be using thermometers and timers and this. I do time everything, but I basically feel with my finger. Okay, and I've gotten a feeling for. I do a little test strip and see how is the film going to behave. Okay, how's the developer going to? You're a hot developer. Cannabis, you are a hot developer. You get 9 minutes developing at about room temperature. You get 9 minutes. Oh, and how I project a film is when you shoot your camera and you put the film in, it is a negative. You shoot a negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
I develop a negative, and how it works is once the silver is developed, there's the undeveloped silver. So without letting any light hit it, I develop it, and then I'll bleach it in a little bit of uh, peroxide and lemon juice, and lemon juice will eat away silver. So guess what it does? It eats away the silver image. I always have lots and lots of skulls, because skulls are the first thing that I discovered are really easy for me to test. And in the film, you'll see some tests. You'll see some cards, and it says like exposure rates and everything. Um, but a skull is great because it's a white image, and I put it on a black background when I shoot it, and then uh, so the image develops black, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up being a black skull. When I eat that away, everything that's not a black skull is just undeveloped silver. In other words, everything that's white is undeveloped. So then once I bleach it, I expose that to light, and then I develop the whole thing a second time, and now all the white areas become black. So the negative becomes a positive. And so the film that's inside the camera is the film you're projecting on the screen for people to enjoy.
Wow.
And that I, I think I've always got more excited about that concept than probably most people that have seen my films. But yeah, it's very personal to me. It's personal to me. It's like I don't collect tattoos, but I do collect places that I go, and it's like, and if I go somewhere, and I have to come back here with my camera on a sunny day or on a overcast day, or however what effect I want, and then whatever film I choose, the speed of film I choose is like, what type of weather is it, and and without writing anything down, I've just got a feeling for the film. So I know there's other people working in coffee and in some different things, but but mine are the most distinct. What in the coffee, the caffeinol is what they call it. In the caffeinol club, everybody wants to do stuff as close to perfect Hollywood film as possible, and I'm like, no, what fun is that? Throw into this, throw in that. I mean, I threw in
Wow.
honey. I remember with the oak, it wasn't working, so I threw in honey, just honey. I don't know, because oak and
Wow.
oh, it was a wedding. It was a wedding. It was a friend of mine's daughter was getting married underneath the oak trees. So I threw in. So I made the developer out of oak, and I found out oak is not a hot developer. I threw in honey just because they're getting married. It's sweet,
Sweetness.
honey, and it it hotted up the developer a little bit, but not enough. So then I cheated at the end and I threw 50% rosemary, which is a really hot developer. So I said here to my friend's daughter, I said, here's your film, film of your wedding under the oak trees. It's been filmed in, and it's been developed in oak trees from your wedding, honey for sweetness, and a little bit of rosemary to add, whatever I said. But the rosemary actually was the hot developer in that. But that's what I do. And you know what? She's got a film of her wedding done,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I love, I'm probably I'm not a fan of myself, but with the work that comes out, I just feel lucky to be in this time and place when, this is probably $2,000, $3,000 right now, but I picked it up for $500. Archaic equipment. I have all sorts
Mm-hmm.
of archaic equipment and projectors, and now I can get expired film. And for me to be able to doing this, if I did this hobby in the 80s, you'd have to be a rich man. So I just find myself right in this time and place when when everything's coming together for a last hurrah on this archaic equipment,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I know they're starting to make film again, 16 millimeter film. There's some different companies in Italy and everything that's starting to, so maybe it will stay alive. But I just happen to, at very little expense to myself, uh, create an identity for myself. You say, what do you do? You know, well, this is how I make money and everything, but I'm a family man. I'm a musician, but I'm a filmmaker, and I hate to say artist, but if somebody else was doing this, I would be their biggest fan. I just think that's so amazing, and so that's all. It's. I'm not saying I have any particular photographic eye or anything like that, but I just followed the road. I took that side road
Wow.
and I followed it, and it's not ending. It's not
Wow.
ending.
Well, thank you so much for sharing these wonderful stories. This is
Wow,
marvelous. I
Mark,
had
you're
just,
the first person to like listen to this story
well,
just now, but thank
I
you so
did have
much.
one more question,
Yes,
and
please.
that is, how did you meet Janet from Fnord? Because
Okay.
that connects you to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And film is what did it. There's a filmmaker, um, um, James Knoll, and he was making. I think he was 19 at the time, and he was making a film, and he invited me to be in it. And Janet was in that film too, and she came over to my house, and we did filming and everything, and and that was it. It's through a mutual friend filmmaker it was video, video film. And I met her, and she's a lovely person, and I guess maybe I'm a lovely person, I don't know, but she remembered that when she remembered that I made films, and that was nice. And when Wonder Valley came up last year, she just called me up, and that was a great treat because I love her. I meant I like the idea, Janet. I met her and everything, and she's just a lovely person. And I said, "Oh man, I'd love to work with you." And now I don't know what direction for Fnord is going, but the sounds that she was coming up with is just wonderful. She and Mark Hostler, uh, wonderful for me to work with.
Hmm.
Right now, Janet is involved in a Irish-ish band. She is a fiddle player like you won't believe. I'm a banjo player. So we're getting together every once in a while and playing Irish-ish music, traditional
Awesome.
Irish music in our own style. Uh, so that's how I met her, and I'm hoping through that I'm never going to lose Janet, through that she's just creative, and she's a go-getter, and she's a instigator, and she likes music
Yes.
and makes things happen. And it's just a pleasure, because I'm just the opposite. I would rather just sit sit and think, that's a great idea, and then go out by myself and do something.
Well, thank you again, Kurt. I really appreciate your time. And this is Mark Soden for Wonder Valley Experimental 14. I'm here with Kurt Comstock, who has created video for the Fnord ensemble.
You can actually call it a film.
I will. Created film for Fnord. And you can see that on April 1st here on this channel on YouTube. And we look forward to it. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you, Mark.